Things I cannot teach my daughter. Few things disprove theory so well as having children. The meaning of womanhood, for example, is a timeless and elusive question. It might seem almost inexhaustible, but it's a tame and comfortable question while it remains in the abstract, and it can remain abstract only until you have a daughter. For scholars and skeptics, it's a question that need have no practical application. They have the luxury of remaining agnostic, but a parent has no such luxury. We are not permitted an endless speculation about what a girl is. The task before us is to raise one. My daughter is still very young. She will inherit an age of unprecedented possibility, but also of civil war. The soul and substance of womanhood has never been so contested as it has been in the postmodern age. It is in this maelstrom that my daughter will enter womanhood, and I am keenly aware of how my wife and I must guide that formation. There is a tempest of competing visions, and in such a landscape, a lack of vigilance may undo a childhood of good intentions. Our children are continually confronted by the powers of this world. We may be inattentive to those influences, but they are no less destructive for being ignored. Our children will be formed one way or another. Either we will guide that process, or we will consent for others to guide it for us. As a disciple of Christ, I know I have only one course open to me. There is, it must be said, some cause for optimism as well as caution. Even within contemporary feminism, there are some overtures I can gladly affirm. I hope to encourage a femininity, for example, that does not feel obliged to apologize for itself. I will encourage my daughter never to believe her worth is determined by a uniquely male perspective. I hope she will never hide or dissemble or belittle herself to placate an insecure masculinity. I pray, too, that she will never disdain motherhood, nor consider it the whole scope of her purpose. Feminism, of course, did not strictly discover these truths, but we may join its advocates in endorsing them. That is, however, as far as I may go in the company of modern feminism, for there are many things it would teach my daughter that I cannot believe. This position is predicated neither on optimism nor naivety. I don't imagine that prejudice has been vanquished from the world. I fully expect my daughter will sometimes meet it. She will encounter people, they are fewer but still in existence, who will seek to limit or exclude her because she is a woman. My resistance to modern feminism is not because I think it is wrong about the existence of prejudice, but because it is singularly ill-suited to help women overcome it. I cannot, for example, teach my daughter to expect that her life as a woman will be necessarily onerous and burdensome. This is an expectation she might easily acquire from her cultured peers. Greta Gerwig's Barbie, for example, which easily occupied the zeitgeist of 2023, proclaimed that it is, quote, literally impossible to be a woman. An article I once read instructed men on how to make the lives of women, quote, slightly less unbearable. We are often told that merely existing as a woman is an exhausting and demoralizing experience. It's curious that the women who profess this believe they are speaking on behalf of all women. Experience suggests they do not. The assumption in such circles is that the lot of women is always and everywhere a disheartening and unjust experience, as though there were a permanent imbalance in the scales of cosmic justice. This is a strange doctrine to teach those we would seek to empower. Life is certainly unjust, and as a woman my daughter will certainly experience that injustice. Yet despite this admission, I cannot tell her that she lives within an oppressive patriarchy, not only because it is debilitating, but also because I'm not certain it's true. Prejudice against women certainly does exist, and like all prejudice, it's entirely senseless. But the argument for a systemic patriarchy, at least in Western nations, seems too tenuous to be a point of dogma. The evidence in its favour seems somewhat selective, and, perhaps more importantly, the whole concept is predicated on the flawed assumption that discrimination is the only cause of disparity. On the latter point, Thomas Sowell has written at great length, and to anyone who is interested, I can do no better than to recommend his book, Discriminations and Disparities. It's also assumed that men and women are, in interest and temperament, more or less interchangeable by nature. It is only the conditioning of gender that causes them to behave differently. There is undoubtedly some truth to this claim, but it's far too contingent to serve as a premise for a universal theory. It seems to be a principal assumption in feminist discourse that in the absence of prejudice and limitation, we will find men and women equally represented in all spheres of life. I submit that such a conclusion is derived from ideology rather than experience. Men and women make different choices based on different values and interests, and it's not at all self-evident that these inclinations are formed solely by societal pressures. To be sure, some disparities are plainly the result of prejudice. Girls, as we know, have historically been discouraged from maths and science on the simple-minded notion that these were male subjects. The sooner we are rid of such nonsense, the better. But many disparities need neither malevolence nor prejudice to explain them, and the insistence that they do has produced only reductive and unhelpful interventions. If the diagnosis is wrong after all, then the remedy will be right only by an accident. My daughter was born both prematurely and with a significant disability. In her short life, she has overcome some profound obstacles. Her courage and tenacity are qualities I am very eager to preserve. She must be aware of her obstacles, to be sure, but that is as much notice as she need pay them. I would far sooner she meditate on her strength and capacity, or better still, the strength of Christ within her. The continued reflection that the world is against her, not accidentally but by design, will serve only to make her afraid, resentful, and ungenerous. If I may trust my own experience, those people who cultivate a belief in their own marginalization are more anxious and unhappy than their peers. Nor is this observation merely anecdotal. Recent data reveals the discovery that liberal women, those presumably identifying as feminists, are among the least happy of women. The critic, of course, will probably say that all of this is a mere flight from reality, but my intention is precisely the opposite. A pleasant fantasy may be comforting, but it must still be abandoned. The real question is why people cling to fantasies that make them manifestly unhappy. I have no intention of pretending the world is a better place than it is, but I refuse to form my daughter into a posture that will make her both disheartened and defensive. The posture of victimhood will, I believe, be far more destructive than any prejudice and ignorance she will meet in other people. It is for this reason I cannot encourage her to join the feminist cause, nor allow it to teach her what womanhood is. We must, I think, avoid any community that gathers around a shared grievance. They are a breeding ground for unhappiness. They change little, and what is more, they inculcate the assumption that the way to change the world is to rage against it, to demand, to denounce, and to boycott. You may be certain that I wish for my daughter to change the world, but I pray that she will do so as Christ did, not in fear, but in love. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these reflections, please consider liking and subscribing.